Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Failing is Not an Option. Today, we are going to finish the Kahoot questions that we did last Sunday. This is your part 2 walkthrough if you missed the Kahoot game that we did last Sunday. Let's take a dive into some of these questions. Our first question, a family seeks therapy. Their 14-year-old daughter, Maya, she's acting out at school, refusing to follow household rules. Parents report constant conflict between Maya and her younger siblings. Tension between the parents themselves. Before developing a treatment plan, a structural family therapist would first aim to understand what? Now, this question again is asking us, what would a structural family therapist aim to understand first? Maya's been having some conflicts and some tension between her parents as well as her younger siblings. So let's keep that in mind as we are navigating these questions. A says the specific patterns of Maya's symptom cycle that maintains her acting out. Now, if we take a look at A, that sounds too much like strategic therapy, right? So we're going to strike it out. B says, which family member is most motivated to change their daughter's behavior? We know in structural family therapy, it's not just about one person. We got to think about the whole system, right? Because structural family therapy draws from general systems theory, right? D says the historical events that cause the current family conflicts. We know that structural family therapist does not take a dive into the past, so we would automatically get rid of D. A, B, and D is not enough information to match structural family therapy, making C the best answer. The structure of the family system is going to be the first thing that you are going to aim to understand before you are developing a treatment plan for a structural family therapy that you're working with. Now, a woman presents with physical indications of abuse that she states were inflicted by her partner. According to strategic family therapy approach, the therapist's first task would be most likely to do what? Now, before we move on to those answer responses, go back to that question. Find out what this question is asking you. We have a woman here. She's indication of abuse from her partner. This is a strategic family therapy question. The therapist's first task. We have some intimate personal violence that is going on in this question. We cannot ignore it. So we need to keep that in mind as we are looking at these answer responses. A says interrupt the current patterns of abuse by discussing immediate safety measures and connecting her with resources. I like the way that sounds, but let's take a look at the rest of them. B says advise her to separate from her partner. We don't advise anything. So B is automatically going to be out. When you get intimate partner violence questions, please don't choose an answer that has you advising them to break up, advising them to call the police, because we can't do that. It takes away from our client's autonomy. C says devise a no violence contract with the partner. That's not the first task that you would do. I think I've talked about this before, especially when they're discussing the no harm contract, the no suicidal contract. They don't really work. It's not enough coverage legally and ethically. So C would not be your best answer response. D says complete a family history of violence. Now, here's the thing. This is an intimate partner violence question. It's happening right now. We know strategic family therapists don't even think about anything in the past. So when you have an intimate partner violence question, don't try to focus on anything in the past either. You need to be working on what's the here and the now, which is going to lead us back to A. Interrupt the current patterns of abuse by discussing immediate safety measures and connecting her with resources. B, C, and D does not pave way to what is going on in the vignette, making A your best answer. A 12-year-old boy, Liam, has type 1 diabetes and consistently refuses to take his insulin. His parents report that their attempts to enforce medication routines result in just arguments, yelling, and withdrawal. During sessions, the therapist observes that Liam often negotiates directly with his younger sibling to avoid taking medication, and the parents argue about who should enforce compliance. According to a structural family therapist, the therapist's first step would most likely to do what? So, before we look at these answer responses, go back to that question, find out what that important information is that you're going to be highlighting, and it is going to help lead you to your best answer. So, we have a 12-year-old boy. He's got diabetes. He doesn't want to take his medication. It leads to yelling, and withdrawal. It also leads to arguments, frequent arguments. The therapist also observes that Liam tries to negotiate with his younger sibling to avoid taking the medication. Now, when the parents try to enforce compliance, it doesn't do anything but leads to argument. So, as a structural family therapist, what is the first thing that you are most likely going to do? When we see questions that say the first step, we literally mean the first step, and you need to put some of those answer responses in the order in which you see them, right? If we take a look at A says unbalance the family by temporarily supporting one parent to assert authority over insulin administration. Okay, now, it sounds nice. Let's look at the rest of them. B says map the family's interaction patterns, including hierarchies, subsystems, boundaries, to identify patterns that are contributing to Liam's refusal. Oh, that one sounds nice too, doesn't it? C says use enactments to have the family act out the medication routine and session so dysfunctional interactions become visible. That one sounds nice. D says clarify and strengthen boundaries between Liam and his siblings to reduce collusion and bypass parental authority. Now, here it is. Now, this question is asking us for a first step. So you know the first one I'm going to get rid of? My first one I'm going to get rid of is going to be D, because D is a goal. Clarify, strengthen, reduce. Those are your goal formulating words. Get rid of it. It didn't ask for a goal. It asks for a first step, right? So here it is. C says use enactments. Moving too fast. A says unbalance, moving too fast. This is your first step. Unbalance and enactments, that's moving a little bit too much. We need to first map the family's interaction structure, including hierarchies, subsystems, and boundaries to identify patterns that are contributing to Liam's refusal, leaving B being the best answer response. D is a goal. A and B are interventions, and it's moving a little bit too fast when we just got to therapy with this as a first step, making B your best answer response. In strategic family therapy, a paradoxical intervention is used to help family members do what? A says participate in a control enactment where the symptom is intentionally performed under the therapist's guidance to reveal and shift interaction patterns. Okay, whatever. Alrighty. B says follow a therapist assigned behavioral task to change the interactional sequence that sustains the problem. Okay. C says engage in a sequence of structured directives designed to disrupt the symptoms reinforcement cycle. Oh my goodness. D says force them to notice and alter the problem maintaining pattern. No, now here's the thing. It's asking you what a paradoxical intervention is used to help with when it comes to family members. A is structural because it says enactment, get rid of it. You know that flat off the bat. B says follow a therapist assigned to behavioral tasks. That sounds too much like a behavior model. Get rid of it. C says engage in a sequence of structured directives designed to disrupt the symptoms reinforcement cycle. Now, it would have been nice if we could have said something like the problem maintaining cycle. Then maybe, possibly, we could have entertained it. But we got to get rid of C too because that's not entirely true. Engage in a sequence of structured directives designed to disrupt is correct, but symptoms reinforcement cycle is not, making C not the best answer. D is going to be your best answer. That paradoxical intervention is used to force them to notice that you do have an issue here and I need you to alter it in order to disrupt the problem that is maintaining the pattern within the family system. D is your best answer. A family seeks therapy because their 13-year-old daughter Mia, she refuses to do her homework, argues with her parents daily. In structural family therapy, the therapist uses a reframe to help family members do what? Now, realistically speaking, this question is ultimately asking you what a reframe is going to be used for. If you know what a reframe is, you can easily navigate these answer responses and find the best answer. A says understand the functional purpose of each member's behavior within the interactional patterns. Now, that's not what a reframe does. That's not how a reframe helps them, right? It's not about finding the functional purpose of each family member. That sounds more like it's a positive connotation to me. That's not a reframe. B says, view Mia's oppositional behavior as a way of expressing her need for autonomy, validating her motives while maintaining boundaries. I don't know what that has anything to do with a reframe, but it doesn't. So we're just going to get rid of B all in all. C says shift the family perception of conflict so that blame is reduced and interactions can be reorganized. I like C, but let's look at D. D says highlight how seemingly problematic behaviors serve a positive function in maintaining family structure. Again, that is your positive connotation. A and B sounds too much like a positive connotation to me. Leaving C, shifting the family's perception. Because remember, the reframe, it's the same set of facts, but I want to have you perceive it differently so that it's reduced with the blame and interactions and everything that's going on, making C going to be your best answer. In structural family therapy, joining refers to what? This was a simple question, right? It's very simple and easy. We've been beating joining into the ground, so we should automatically know what this answer is. Imposing behavior directives on a family is a no-go. That's bonkers. You know that has to do with strategic, so do not choose it. So C says have the family act out conflicts for insight. Come on now, we know that's an enactment, so you get rid of it. Prescribing a symptom, strategic, get rid of it. B is your best answer. Understanding interaction patterns while you're still connecting with the family. That is it. That is all. Boundaries in structural family therapy are what? If you know what a boundary is, you know how to find this answer. We use boundaries daily. I use boundaries heck of a lot. Boundaries are for me. It's not for the other person. And whether if you don't like my boundaries or not, that is up to you, but you have to respect them. Rules that regulate how closely members relate. Invisible lines. Come on now. This ain't math class. Therapists impose rules for the family. First of all, yes, the therapist can impose the rules and everything and say it's this, that, and the third. And I can tell you as a therapist you need boundaries, whatever. But does that mean that you're going to put them in place? No, it's not. D says behavior directives for symptom change. You know, behavior directives for symptom change are called what? Paradoxical interventions. That's not a boundary, right? But if you take a look at A, rules that regulate how closely members relate is your best answer for what boundaries are in structural family therapy. Boundaries are used to do what? They are used to protect us emotionally and physically when it comes to family members, co-workers, friends, right? That's all that boundaries mean. Now, let's move on to the next one. A problem maintaining sequence in strategic family therapy refers to what? When we see that word, a problem maintaining sequence, we automatically think about something that is what? Stuck in a loop. It keeps occurring over and over and over again. You're stuck in it. That is the mindset that we keep as we're going to be navigating these answers for this question. What does that mean in strategic family therapy? A repetitive pattern that perpetuates the presenting problem. Okay. A says a set of communication or behavior sequences that unintentionally reinforce conflict or symptoms. Behavior exchanges between family members that maintain resistance to change. Nope. Recurring cycles of interactions that keep the problem stable despite attempts at resolution. D, I can tell you for a fact, is not a problem maintaining sequence. It's talking about a homeostatic function. Get rid of it. C says behavioral exchanges. A problem maintaining sequence is not exchanging any behavior between family members. Get rid of it. B says a set of communication or behavior sequences that unintentionally reinforce. No, a problem maintaining sequence is a repetitive pattern that perpetuates the presenting problem. Repetitive was your key term that you should have looked at when you was looking at this question, making A the best answer. During a family session, a therapist notices that a father and son are constantly interrupting each other and speaking over one another. To address this, the therapist instructs the father and mother to sit on one side of the room and the son on the other, physically highlighting the space between them. This intervention is an example of what? We've been beating this into the ground. We know what mimesis is. We're mirroring. We're doing what the family is doing in order to be accepted by them. It is a form of joining. You know enactment is doing what? I'm going to ask you to role play. You had a fight last night. Show me what that looked like. C is disengagement. That's not even an intervention, so you should automatically get rid of it. It's a boundary, right? It's one of those boundaries that we're talking about. D is boundary marking. That is what's being highlighted in this question. Boundary marking is your best answer. A therapist has been seeing a client for 10 sessions. When the client calls and leaves a message saying she's not coming back to therapy because she's all better now. From a strategic family therapist perspective, this most likely indicates what? Go back to the question. She says she's all better. It's a strategic family therapist. We know that when the symptom has been relieved, when we found relief for this family, we automatically know we can get rid of them, right? So we need to be looking for an answer response that's going to let us know that termination has happened, therapy is over with, and I don't need to call and be begging you to come back. She'd have been there for 10 sessions and she says she's all better. A says the problem maintaining sequence have been successfully interrupted, leading to a symptom resolution. I like how that sounds, but let's look at the rest of them. The client has completed a paradoxical task or a directive resulting in immediate behavioral change. I'm going to tell you why B is wrong. First of all, just because you completed that paradoxical task or that directive don't mean that the symptom is been resolved. Doesn't mean you may still need to come. So B is going to automatically be incorrect. C says the interaction patterns that sustain the presented problem are no longer reinforced. My issue about C is that it's not enough. It's not using the right words. The interaction patterns that sustained the presented problem are no longer reinforced. What does that mean, reinforced? Right? Like, that has nothing to like really do with why she's saying that she's all better now. The better thing is going to be looked at is just like they've been successfully interrupted, the problem maintaining sequences, which is those words and those terms and those phrases that we look for when it comes to strategic family therapy. The same way with D, perceived improvement reflects the success of strategic interventions in offering. No. A is your best answer. The client's problem maintaining sequences have been successfully interrupted, leading to symptom resolution. This question asks you, this most likely indicates what from a strategic family therapy's perspective. It must be very specific in nature when it is explaining why this client has refused to return back to therapy. The Perez family comes to therapy because their 15-year-old son, Carlos, has been skipping school and engaging in risky behaviors. After 3 months of therapy, Carlos is attending school regularly, the parents are collaborating effectively, and sibling conflicts have decreased. From a structural family therapy perspective, which of the following will best indicate that therapy is ready for termination? Now, remember, when we look at some of these questions that are asking us if this family is ready for termination, we need to be taking a look at, well, what was this family going through and how would I know that they've reached their goals and, when it comes to termination, right? If we go back and look, 15-year-old son, skipping school, engaging in risky behaviors. Those were the two issues as to why they were coming to therapy. But 3 months have gone by and it seems like those behaviors, they're diminished, right? So let's take a look at the answer responses. A says Carlos' school attendance has improved, resolving the presenting problem. Okay. The parents report they have learned coping skills to manage stress. None of that was ever mentioned, so don't add to it. Did it say that the parents had stress? I mean, we can say that they're stressed out by it, but if the vignette didn't say it, don't add to it, right? C says Carlos understands the consequences of his behavior. Not enough, because he also was skipping school, right? The family attends therapy sessions consistently. Well, we know that, right? But that doesn't tell us that they're ready for termination just because they come to therapy consistently, right? But A says Carlos' school attendance has improved, resolving the presenting problem. A is going to be your best answer because D doesn't hold enough weight. C just says he understands the consequences, but does that mean that we know that they're ready to terminate now? No. We know that they're ready to terminate because his attendance has improved and the presenting problem has been resolved, leaving A to be the best answer. A strategic therapist views the symptom as a message, serving the family system's equilibrium. The most accurate conceptual term is what? This was another question where I looked at some of the metrics and stuff for the questions, and a lot of people chose wrong with this question. Equilibrium should have moved you away from first order change, triangulation, and the redundancy principle, and it should have took you to the homeostatic function, right? Because that's what homeostasis is. It's that balance that we're going to keep. And when it starts to change, then that's when the things get thrown off. But because that symptom is serving a message, it serves as the system's equilibrium. It keeps that balance. So B is going to be your best answer. You know what A, C, and D mean, leaving B being the best answer to look for, especially when you see that word equilibrium. In session, a strategic therapist tells parents that their child's defiant behavior proves how much control he really has. This statement primarily serves to do what? Now, this is a strategic therapist, right? The child is defiant, probably not following directions, probably yelling, doing whatever it is that he wants to do. But the therapist says this just proves how much control he really has. He has control, right? He has a lot of control because he's not following your directions. You're the parents and he's the kid, right? This statement primarily serves to do what? Does it reframe the symptoms' meaning to shift family perception? Is it exposing a covert parental anxiety about control? It can't be. Anxiety wasn't mentioned. So you get rid of it. Don't add to the question. Encourage the child to accept responsibility. Well, okay, we know that, but that's not what the what's in quotation is trying to teach you or what it's serving. And we know it's not D. Nothing up there is talking about prescribing the symptoms. So A is going to be your best answer. Reframing the symptoms meaning to shift the family perception. It proves that how much control he really has. It's a reframe. He's defiant because that tells me he's not listening to what his parents is saying, meaning he has what? He might have control. He's not listening to what his parents is saying. He's doing whatever he wants to do because he's defiant. But when you refrain the symptoms meaning to shift the family's perception, letting them know, hey, to you it's defiance, but it looks like it's control. So what are we going to do about it? A is going to be your best answer. A therapist notices that a mother and adolescent daughter frequently teams up to criticize the father, criticizing the father for never helping enough. And that's in quotation marks, right? The therapist decides to align with the father briefly to explore his perspective. The primary intent of this intervention is to do what? Highlight the alliance between the mother and the daughter. I think that was a lot of, or was it the other one? I'm trying to see which one people chose to choose this answer for, but the adolescent daughter frequently they team up and they're criticizing the father, but then the therapist is going to align with the father, right? So A says highlight the alliance. Why do we want to highlight the alliance between the mother and the daughter when they shouldn't have an alliance in the first place? Get rid of A. The mother and the father should have an alliance, not the mother and the daughter. So get rid of A. B says restructure the family hierarchy by shifting coalitions. Okay. C says encourage emotional expressions. No, again with that emotional expressions, absolutely not. D says paradoxically increase the family awareness of patterns. Again, this is a structural family therapy question. Structural family therapists do not use paradoxes, so get rid of D. B is your best answer. We need to restructure this family hierarchy and we need to shift these coalitions. So now I'm going to align with this father and let you know that now it's even. It's even on this side. You guys want to team up, but I'm going to balance this out by siding with the father right now. There should never be an alliance between a mother and a daughter. There should always be mother and father here. The daughter should always be here. That is how it works for structural family therapy. A therapist notices that parents continually rescue their teenage son from the consequences of his actions. The therapist assigns the parents to allow the teen to handle one consequence independently this week. The main theoretical goal is to do what? Now, we see in this question that they want to rescue their son. He's doing something he's probably not supposed to be doing in the first place. He's getting consequences for it, but they're trying to save him from those consequences. So the therapist is going to assign the parents to allow him. You do whatever it is that you want to do that's going to get you in this trouble, but you're going to have to handle these consequences all on your own. The main theoretical goal is to do what? A is going to be out automatically. They're talking about differentiation and reducing emotional fusion. You know that this is not a Bowen question. Get rid of it. B says strengthen generational boundaries and parental hierarchy. Okay. C says promote operant learning through natural consequences. C is more like your, what is that? Social learning theory, maybe. It's one of those behavioral models, not C. And you know it's not D, paradoxically amplify the family's anxiety. Anxiety was never mentioned, so you get rid of it. So B is your best answer. We've got some generational boundaries and you know, we need to strengthen that, right? In the parental hierarchy. Hey, you want to go out and do all this nonsense on your own, then be prepared to face these consequences because I can't keep saving you all the time. B is going to be your best answer of the four. Alrighty, this is the last one, everyone. A therapist meets with the family whose teenage daughter refuses to attend school. The parents have tried everything from punishment to rewards, but her avoidance continues. The therapist instructs the parents to intentionally allow their daughter to stay home for the next 3 days and to record how they all spend the time together. The directive is primarily intended to do what? Now, we got a daughter. She doesn't want to attend school. The parents have tried rewards, they've tried punishing this girl, and it's just not working. So the therapist is going to tell the parents to allow the daughter to stay at home. We know that this is a strategic therapy question, meaning we need to be looking for strategic therapy answers, right? So A says interrupt the problem maintaining sequence through a paradoxical intervention. Okay. B says reframe the symptom to reveal its function to maintain a family homeostasis. No. C says promote second order change by altering the family's attempted solutions. No. D says unbalance the system by shifting the family's interactional rules. No. So there was a directive that was given. The therapist instructs the parents to intentionally allow their daughter to stay home for the next 3 days and record how they all spend their time together. That's prescribing a symptom. So we're going to be looking at A, interrupt the problem maintaining sequence through a paradoxical intervention. It's not an unbalance. We're not doing any unbalancing. We're not reframing, and we're not trying to promote second order change. We're hoping to get to second order change, but the directive is primarily intended to do what? Which is going to be interrupt the problem maintaining sequence. I know you guys have been watching me. I've been looking my head down every now and again, and I have someone here right now. Hey, can you stop? What are you doing right now? So Godzilla wants to say hi. He's been hanging out with me for the past hour or two. Say hello. I actually got to go to PetSmart after this to get him something to eat. But yeah, he's been hanging out with me for the last few minutes. Say bye to everyone. This was the last question that we did. Thank you all so much for rocking with me all the way until the end. I will see you all Monday night, 6:30 p.m. Central. Have a good evening, everyone. Bye.